All right. Welcome, everyone, to the agenda review for December 9th, this Thursday. I will call the meeting to order and now turn it over to Amy Brooks.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I just have a few announcements. So as we close out the first half of this year, our fiscal year, that is, not the calendar year, just wanted to highlight a few things that we've wrapped up as staff. We've had a very busy year, and we anticipate another busy year next year. But transportation staff have wrapped up their 4-year transportation improvement program, which includes funding for projects across our TPO region. We've wrapped up our work on behalf of the city's Office of Sustainability. You might recall this project is referred to as BREATHE, and it resulted in an action plan to help the region identify opportunities to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Across the area, there are personal actions you can take, as well as what businesses can do and what local governments can do. We're particularly proud of this work, and we hope that you'll check it out. Additionally, we've wrapped up our priority investments work. This was work that we did on behalf of CAT, and it includes a map and analysis focused on opportunities along our major transportation corridors. This report is going to serve as foundational work for our upcoming work on the city's comprehensive plan, which the City Council is expected to vote on this evening. As you may recall, it was funding for the comprehensive plan was included in our budget request to the city, and it was approved in June of this year, effective July 1st, but a contract will go before council to solidify roles and expectations between us and the city as we start to undertake this work over the next year. With that as well, some of you may or may not have seen, but we have released a request for proposals. We are looking for a consultant team to help assist us with that work. So we will be sharing more information with you all, likely on a monthly basis over the next year and a half as it relates to that work. Additionally, the Unified Development Ordinance is underway, and so we're going to be very busy over the next year working on these two major projects in addition to the day-to-day work and application review that you all see on a monthly basis. And with that, I'd like to have Allie Ketron give you all an overview of where we are with the UDO.
Thank you, Amy. As Amy said, I'm just going to give you all a little bit of an update about where we've been over the past few months, and then just talk a little bit about sort of what's to come and make sure you all have everything on your radar as we move into the next year. So if you'll recall, in the fall, we went out with our first big round of community engagement. So in September, we had a really busy week. We went out and had 4 in-person community, public meetings. We did a virtual session. We met with you all. We met with County Commission, our committees as well, and just had a very busy week. And at those sessions, we were asking for feedback related to some recommendations that the consultants had presented us as sort of a really big initial first step. Once those in-person events kind of wrapped up, we took all of that material and posted it on the website to give people an additional opportunity and a different way to provide the same feedback. So what you see on this slide, just a few highlights. We had about 150 people attend those in-person meetings. We had about 100 people register for our online public session. And then once we turned it over and put it on the website, we had about a little shy of 1,800 different votes and sort of touch points on our website. So what's in front of you all, it's a printed out packet. This is also on the Advanced Knox project website. And this is just a summation of all of that, all of those votes, regardless of whether somebody put a sticky dot on a board in a room with us or voted for it on our website online. And I'll let you all take a look through that. Again, it's also posted on the website. But what you see is really a reflection of the priorities that people had in mind when they were looking through this material. So we weren't asking people to like vote up and vote down every single item in front of them, but to look over everything and just indicate to us what their top priorities were. And so I think those sort of top vote getters are probably very much in line with what you all hear on a monthly basis, what we hear on a regular basis. But happy to answer any questions about that here at the end as well. So now that we've gotten through that big first round, we are working with our consultant team and our full project team to really get this document creation underway. One of the first tasks that we undertook was to create a draft table of contents. And the importance of that is that document helps us identify all the places that this content exists right now and the way that we're pulling it into one singular document moving forward. So it helps us identify how we're sort of weaving those things together into one new, single document. There are 23 articles defined in that. I think that is a point of importance because it just shows, again, that we're pulling everything in together, but we're also pulling some material that was kind of deeply embedded and hard to find in our existing regulations into their own separate sections. So you'll have an article dedicated just to signs, just to landscaping, things like that. So the point of this is to be really user-friendly for you all as regular users of these codes, for County Commission, and for the public and developers and really everyone. Another sort of point of interest for you all is the way that our consultants are going about drafting this material. So they're not starting on line 1 of Article 1 and sort of in a linear fashion writing it all the way to the last line of Article 23. Instead, what they're doing is going through and identifying what they're referring to as modules, so sort of themes of content that may exist in multiple articles throughout the document, but it's all related to zoning regulations. That's one of those modules. We're also have something called general provisions, so that's things like the authority statements within there, the use of graphics, some maybe not the most exciting information, but very important sort of baseline information. Development standards, so things like the creation of lots and blocks and access and parking and things like that. Another module will be dedicated to landscaping, signs, and stormwater regulations. So all 3 of those will be their own individual article, but they'll just sort of be tackled together in the drafting process. And then building and fire code. So knowing how they're kind of going about writing this, what we have done is we've outlined over the next several months sort of our roadmap and plan of action for how we're sharing this information. So again, looking at those modules, we'll be sharing out content related to each of those sort of piece by piece so that we're not coming before you all, before County Commission, the public at the end with one big document that nobody really knows what's happening with. So in January, we'll be sharing some information related to zoning regulations and general provisions. And the idea is that, we'll keep you all updated, County Commission will be updated, but we'll also be updating the public, and we'll really be looking to sort of online tools and forums to do that for the first several months of the year. So having some sort of virtual meeting and then posting material on our website. And so then that sort of idea gets replicated each month for different content. So in February, looking at development standards. In March, looking at landscaping, signs, and stormwater regulations. And then in April, looking at building and fire code. And at the bottom of this slide, you'll see an image that you've probably seen multiple times before through the comprehensive plan. This is just an image that sort of depicts our place types that are found in there. And it's just a reminder that all the work we do, starting with those zoning regulations and moving forward, is really informed by and looks back to that comprehensive plan. So then once we get through those modules, we'll go into May. We'll have another major round of public input and engagement. And then we will come to you all for a workshop for that draft document in the month of May. And that's really in preparation for you all to hear and consider the document at your June meeting. And then once you all hear it, it goes on to County Commission for 2 readings. So one in July and then the second in August. I think I failed to mention also that along the way, not only are we engaging you all and elected officials and the public, but also the committees that we have established and are helping us work through some of those technical elements and providing that expertise. So they'll be a major part of that process as well. But with that, I'm happy to entertain any questions if you all have them.
I did have a quick question. You'd mentioned about 1,800 responses or different dots, if you will, on those things. Is that what you guys anticipated? I mean, the type of feedback, did you expect more or less, or is that about right, what you thought?
Yeah, I think for us, the initial in-person meetings, I think we had a pretty good response. It's always hard, as you all know, to get people to come out and start providing input, especially early in a process. But we felt pretty good about those in-person engagements. And then it's really important to us that we're offering that online component as well, just recognizing it's hard to get people out and wanting to make sure that we have all those different opportunities. So I think compiled together, that's about what we would expect. Amy, if you want to add to that. So it was definitely open to the public in general. We did go out and meet with different committee groups and sort of stakeholder groups. So we got in front of different audiences in that manner, to like developers and our committees and things like that. And then I don't have any of that sort of demographic information in front of me. I'd have to look back at what all we collected. Yeah, we have some. Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Allie.
All right, thanks.
Okay, now we will move on to agenda item number 37. This is proposed amendments to the subdivision regulations. We'll give Andrea a minute to get hooked up there.
Good morning, everybody. Sorry about the delay. This is agenda item number 37, 12A25 OB. Staff is proposing amendments to the current version of the subdivision regulations, which were adopted in January of this year. The amendments capture a change in the city's zoning ordinance that established a new use for single-family attached dwellings and the option to use a shared driveway. I should be here. Sorry. All proposed subdivision regulation changes were made in consultation with city and county engineering staff. And today I'll go over some of the proposed amendments, which are summarized in your staff memo. And then for complete information, the packet includes the draft version of the subregs with changes tracked for easy identification. All proposed amendments occur in Section 3.03, which is the access standards section of the subdivision regulations. The access standards currently allow access to a public street by an approved access easement, private right-of-way, previously approved JPE, or access through a legally binding document. In subsection 3.03A, the proposed amendments add the option for access to a public street by an alternative access standard or shared driveway easement. Additionally, a change is suggested to replace the need for Planning Commission approval of the legal documentation with that of the applicable engineering and law departments. Engineering would review the proposed access for any safety concerns, and the law department would review the legal documentation. In subsection 3.03.C.1, pertaining to access easements, a change is suggested to clarify that access easements in both the city and county shall serve single-family dwellings, duplexes, or townhouse lots only. However, in the city of Knoxville, either an access easement or a shared driveway easement may be used for a single-family attached lot, in addition to the existing access allowance. Again, these changes are suggested to align the subdivision regulations with the city's zoning ordinance, which was recently amended to establish a single-family attached dwelling use. In subsection 3.03.F, the amendments propose to eliminate the requirement for Planning Commission approval when a subdivision plat uses alternative access standards. Both the city and county engineering departments support this change as it provides more flexibility to approve plats with alternative access at the staff level and will speed up the approval process. The appropriate law department is still required to review the legal documentation of the alternative access for its legality and permanence of access rights. Subsection 3.03.F.1 is a new proposed section that provides the option for a shared driveway easement. A shared driveway is a single driveway that may serve a maximum of 2 dwelling units. It must still meet the minimum minimum dimensions and standards of an individual driveway. However, it does not need to meet the minimum right-of-way width requirement for an access easement, which is 25 feet. In the city of Knoxville, a shared driveway may be used by a single-family attached development for 2 lots with legal frontage on a public street. As with other alternative access standards, legal documentation must be reviewed and approved by either the city or county law department. Here are 2 examples of how a shared driveway easement could be implemented. In the first example, the shared driveway is located on the left side of the single-family attached dwelling. The driveway extends from the street to the rear of the property to provide access to each dwelling unit. In the second example, 2 single-family dwellings use the shared driveway, which is located along the property line. Section 3.03.H pertains to the use of alleys for vehicular access. To comply with the city's zoning ordinance, the amendments propose for an operable alley to serve as the primary means of access for development as stipulated by the zoning ordinance, unless the Department of Engineering determines site conditions prohibit alley access. This includes development of single-family attached or 2-family dwellings, as well as middle housing uses. In this case, Planning Commission approval for the use of the alley is not required. In conclusion, staff's recommendation is to approve the proposed amendments to the Knox County subdivision regulations.
Does anyone have any questions?
Yeah. Okay, on the first one, 303.03, I guess my question is, could someone create an easement to like the back side of their property and develop a house like on the back side Or would they have to have like street frontage? They still have to have street frontage on their lot
In the
order
city
to?
of Knoxville, yes, you're required to have the legal street frontage. In the county, it's a little bit more flexible.
Okay, so no one could develop the backside of a piece of their lot to add another single-family?
It would depend on whether the zoning district would allow it. So for instance, in the county, well, you wouldn't need the easement within your own property. So if you had two houses in an agricultural district in the county, there wouldn't necessarily be an easement because it's your own property. So the easement would provide access either across the lots, depending if it's shared across the property line, or in the example that I showed, it could be on the left side of the property going to the rear to access another lot.
Can they currently do that?
Yes, with a.
They can currently do that?
Right.
So,
It's just, this allows for a more narrow driveway width.
okay, so in the city, what does this allow that's not currently allowed as far as developing on an access easement?
It's, I guess again, it's allowing the easement to be more narrow than an access easement. You could do it currently if there was an access easement, which would have to be 25 feet minimum in width. The area of the access easement in that case would have to be excluded from the lot size. So in this instance, with a shared driveway easement, the width of the easement can be more narrow, and the easement itself, the area of the easement can be included in the lot. So it allows for smaller properties to be developed.
But they would still have to have street frontage?
Correct.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Okay, seeing no other questions, we'll move on to agenda item number 38. Thank you, Andrea. And we're going to switch over to Michelle.
Thank you. So this is 12B 25OB. I'm connected, but it's not showing on the screen. Let's see. Okay, there we go. Okay, so this is pertaining to an amendment to the administrative rules and procedures of the Planning Commission. So we are modifying, oh, hold on. Sorry. There we go. Okay, so we're modifying section 4 of the administrative rules and procedures pertaining to case documentation, removing the requirement for, to post the original application online, which is currently required to be posted online as part of the case file. So our website has recently been the target of malicious attempts to mine contact information from these applicants or applications to use them for phishing purposes. Some applicants have received false requests for payment that appear to have come from planning, and we do know of at least one instance where someone actually paid that fee. So the proposed change will remove applicant contact information from the website to prevent it being used for these purposes. And all other information, such as the request, the location, all of those sorts of things will still be available online. And any member of the public wishing to contact an applicant will still be provided that information upon request, so they could contact the planner in charge of the application or our front desk and be provided with that information. So essentially, we're moving to strike the more specific information and just saying that we're providing all information on all cases to take care of this amendment. Happy to answer any questions.
What information, are you just taking the contact information page entirely out?
No,
Or
so
will it be redacted? Like, what's the plan on that?
yeah, so we do have a redacted version of the application, but within the case file, I think it's just going to, instead of being in the format that it is right now, it's going to be a more web-based version. So again, it'll show the case locate. Everything they need to know about the case will be provided, just not the contact information.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. We're doing a lot of switching around among staff here. Okay, so we're going to move on to agenda item number 19. This is a plan development request. I'll turn over to Mike.
Yes, thank you. So this is, as Amy mentioned, the plan development request for Jonathan's Grill. It's a 20,000 square foot, 3-story restaurant. It's located in the plan district for the mixed-use stadium and mixed-use plan development. So this is a final plan. There's there's 2 primary steps involved. There starts with a preliminary plan that involves conversations with the city and planning staff ahead of time. They present a conceptual development plan. They present their public benefits and zoning exceptions. And really, that's the big one with the plan development is the zoning exceptions. You're basically setting your own zoning regulations to some degree. Once that's approved, the next step is final plan. So that we're in step 2 with this project, where they're providing a detailed development plan for a specific site, and it must be consistent with the preliminary plan and the zoning regulations for the district. For this particular plan, they're using 3 zoning exemptions that came with the stadium mixed-use project. It's to eliminate the requirement for parking, a 0-foot rear setback, and the maximum of 175-foot maximum height. I'm not going to read this whole thing, but the gist of it is this plan development, it's meant to, obviously, the major piece of it was the mixed-use stadium. And then there's development around the external side of the stadium, which is already constructed. There's 2 buildings, the Yardley Flats and the Delaney Building, thank you. But it's meant to be an entertainment, office, retail, residential, mixed-use development. What you see here is the site. So it's kind of southwest of the stadium. The stadium itself had its final plan. Obviously, it's built. It's the area in green. And technically, Lot G was also part of that, but it was mainly just for a surface parking lot they decided not to build. I guess they could still technically pursue that if they care to, but at this point, it doesn't seem like they're interested in going that direction. Again, the red area is the subject lot. This is just a quick overview of the site and orientation. So we have Hall of Fame and James White Parkway to the left. We have the site kind of oriented towards the Delaney Building and the open space in front of it, and you can see the stadium off to the northeast. They do have 15 parking spaces on site, even though they're not required to have parking. Again, zoning exceptions are listed, as I mentioned before. They have no parking requirement, but they're providing 15 spaces. They're meeting the rear setback. They're providing 3 feet, and the maximum height of this structure is 60 feet, 16.5 feet. The underlying zoning for the property is industrial mixed use, the IMU zone, and I believe the maximum height is 50 feet, if I remember correctly. So that's why they needed to use this exception, because in the IMU zone, you wouldn't normally be able to build the 60-foot tall building. Just kind of outline some of the other requirements that they are meeting, which you typically don't have in other zone districts, but a 0 to 25-foot build-to zone, so they are building close enough to the front property line to meet that. They are meeting the blank wall standards, and they're also meeting the transparency standards. Staff recommendation is to approve this proposal because it's in substantial compliance with the approved development preliminary plan, subject to 7 conditions. And then the other part that's a little bit unique about final plans is we're also making a recommendation to City Council to amend the zoning map to add the PD label or designation to the subject property, because once the final plan is approved, that's when it actually gets added to the zoning map. So really, City Council's only function in this case is just to update the zoning map, not approve the development. Does anybody have any questions?
Okay, thank you, Mike. Now we'll move on to rezonings. Agenda item number 6. I'll switch computers again here. This item was postponed last month. Staff is recommending denial.
This is item 611-K, 25RZ. The request is to go from CH1 Highway Commercial and Hillside Protection to CG1 General Commercial and Hillside Protection. The property is located at 6260 Clinton Highway. So the surrounding area features a mix of uses, primarily commercial uses and more intensive auto-oriented uses. These include self-storage facilities, including indoor and outdoor, a lot of auto vehicle dealerships and repair services, and contractor outdoor storage yards, as well as limited large-scale multifamily residential developments. So the stretch of Clinton Highway between Merchant Drive and Shawd Road for properties in the city consists almost entirely of CH1 zoning, or CH zoning, I should say. Less intense zones, such as less intense commercial zones, office, and residential have been focused abutting the Clinton Highway commercial corridor. Staff recommendation is to deny the CG1 zoning district because the subject property does not meet the intent of the district and is not supported by changing conditions in the area. Development trends along Clinton Highway, which is a major commercial thoroughfare that supports a lot of more intensive uses and more auto-oriented uses. And the current CH1 zoning district is appropriately aligned with the character of Clinton Highway and and it already supports commercial and economic growth. Are there any questions?
Seeing no questions, we'll move on to agenda item number 28.
Okay. This is a request to rezone from agricultural to planned residential up to 5 dwelling units an acre for a property located at 7809 High School Road. The property is just under 4 acres. It's about 3.97 acres. The surrounding area primarily has a residential character that consists of single-family houses on a range of lot sizes and townhouse developments. A lot of commercial development has been concentrated along East and West Emory Road, south of the subject property, which also has different community amenities such as the Collier Nature Preserve, access to Beaver Creek, and the Powell Public Library. To the east is I-75, where TDOT has recently started construction on the I-75 Emory Road Improvement Project, which will reconfigure the interchange to help move traffic more efficiently. Zoning in the area primarily consists of residential zoning ranging from plain residential with up to 2.5 dwelling units an acre to 15 dwelling units an acre. There is also RB, general residential, and RA, low-density residential. And then commercial zoning is mainly concentrated along East and West Emory roads. So the place type for the subject property is suburban residential, which recommends a land use mix of primarily single-family and attached residential dwellings on a range of lot sizes. The PR zone is partially related to the suburban residential place type, and it meets the criteria for a partially related zone as the allowable housing types in the PR zone with up to 5 dwelling units an acre is consistent with the surrounding area. So the subject property is located near a curved hill on High School Road, and it's been brought to our attention that there are some concerns with site distance and that there might not be adequate site distance at this location. Though our initial approval was to recommend, we are actually going to recommend postponement of the application to allow time for the applicant to obtain site distance verification. And this decision was made after consulting with engineering and discussing those concerns. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you, Kelsey. So the last item that we have on our agenda today is number 9. This is another rezoning and a plan amendment. I'll turn over to Jesse.
So this is case number 12K25RZ and 12A25SP. This is an approximately 11,800 square foot property located at the corner of Simpson and McCormick Street, south of Island Home Avenue and north of Sevier Avenue. The request is for a rezoning from RN2, single-family residential, to RN5, general residential, and a sector plan amendment from low-density residential to South Waterfront Mixed-Use District Type 2. There is a sliver of hillside protection overlay on the east side that would be retained. As you can see in the one-year plan, this South Waterfront Mixed-Use District 2 designation already exists on the subject property. This land use designation functions as a phased continuation of the South Waterfront Mixed-Use District 1 land use that you see in lighter purple to the north. That Type 1 district is directly tied to the form-based code, whereas the Type 2 district permits a wide array of zones to be considered based on changing development conditions stemming from the form-based code and from other improvements in the area. It also corresponds to the boundaries of the adopted South Waterfront Vision Plan. The South City Sector Plan is misaligned with the one-year plan here. The sector plan clearly contemplated the South Waterfront Vision Plan because the district to the north is tied to that form-based code. However, the sector plan does not reflect the Phase 2 mixed-use district like the one-year plan did, starting in 2011, which is the same year the sector plan was adopted. The South Waterfront Mixed-Use District 2 land use permits the same single-family residential zones that are considered in the low-density residential classification you see there, but it also permits consideration of a wider mix of uses in zoning districts where infrastructure improvements and growing amenities enable it. In the zoning map, you can see that this little neighborhood enclave between Ford Place and the railroad tracks is all RN2, and the subject property is at the edge of this less intensive residential area, and it borders the form-based code to the north. There are many changing conditions to consider in this area. The Sevier Avenue roadway capital improvement project is currently under construction 400 feet from the subject property. This work is providing a new intersection roundabout with Island Home Avenue, as well as a greenway crossing and drainage and streetscape improvements. This work is coinciding with the Sevier Avenue utility conduit and duct bank project to transition overhead utilities underground. There's also the Station South Townhouse development with 20 units that was just completed in 2024, about 60 feet northeast of the subject property. You can see the white dwellings just a little bit in the upper right of the subject property. And the closed railroad tracks that abut the subject property to the north are also slated to become a Rails to Trails Greenway and Art Walk spearheaded by Legacy Parks. The staff recommendation is to approve the South Waterfront Mixed Use District Type 2 land use because it aligns the sector plan and the one-year plan, and the sector plan could have been updated to better represent the boundaries and phased implementation intent of the South Waterfront Vision Plan. Instead of the requested RN5 zone, staff are recommending approval of RN4 because it provides a transition of residential intensity that reflects ongoing improvements and development in the general area while also honoring the existing single-story context immediately surrounding this property. With the RN5 ordinance amendment that just passed, the maximum height for an RN5 multifamily building here would be 45 feet, but in RN4 it would be 35 feet next to single-family residences, which is the context here. Unlike RN5, RN4 would incorporate planning staff or planning commission review to consider the impact of townhouse or multifamily development on surrounding properties. So for these reasons, staff recommend approval of RN4 as a compatible residential zone supported by new private and public development conditions. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Just a quick question. Did you, or have you discussed that with the applicant? Are they comfortable with RN4 versus RN5?
They're aware of our recommendation. They are still going to be advocating for RN5.
Very good. Thank you. Unless there's no other business, I believe we're done. And just a quick.
I have one question.
I'm sorry. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Jesse, do you mind on agenda item number 10, can you kind of talk about the differences between the DTW and the IMU, which is currently zoned? I know you recommended approval. it's in a sea of IMU. Just kind of want to see what this zoning change would mean for that area
Sure.
and going forward.
Yeah, let me pull that up. So DKW, one distinction, obviously, is that DKW would go before Design Review Board. So there are more design considerations and there's oversight in that regard versus IMU, although IMU does have design standards as well. There are different height considerations between DKW and IMU. Just pulling up the code. So in IMU, the maximum building height is 50 feet. In DKW, it is, I believe it's unlimited. And then there is, some mixed use intent with DKW as well, if it's, and then, one of the primary considerations here was thinking about the changing condition of the stadium development and other DKW rezonings in this area, the expanding downtown footprint that's occurring around this mixed-use and more pedestrian-oriented area. DKW is the warehouse sub-district, so it still honors the kind of industrial warehousing history there, while also modernizing it for more pedestrian interface.
So is the height the biggest difference between the two as far as?
I would say that's a pretty big distinction between the two districts.
Yeah, the DKW also does not have a parking standard. There's no parking standard in DK zone, which I'm not sure if it matters for this project or not. They might still provide parking, but that's another change.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Is that all you needed, Amy?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, yeah, and quick reminder, after the meeting on Thursday, we are getting together over at Clancy's, so looks like we got a pretty good attendance coming already, but you're welcome to come. With that, we will be adjourned. Thank you.